Design thinking is an inclusive and creative process that promotes user understanding and collaborative product development process to solve problems. Design thinking methodology is a directional process, not a linear process, because it allows the team, the ideating team, to provide iteration for their solutions and go back, if necessary, to the beginning of the process in order to find just the perfect solution. I'm going to start by describing what a problem is and where do problems come from. So the problem description is the beginning of the design thinking process. Problems can come from different directions, from users that are unhappy using products that company designed for them, from companies that discovered, invented, or purchased new technologies and now are looking for ways to use them. Problems can come from services that are not used well. Problems can come from services that are expensive. So they can come from multiple sources. Companies have to decide whether the problem or the problems before them are worth solving. The research portion of design thinking involved three major areas. One of them have to do with the user, the second have to do with technology, and the third have to do with business. When it comes to the user, our interest is to identify the latent and obvious needs the user has. We are interested in identifying certain trends that relate to the user, and we are interested in identifying the aesthetic and emotive aspects that relate to user in their own environments. In order to understand the obvious and latent needs of the users, we use ethnographic methodologies. They have to do with observation, they have to do with interviews and immersion with the users in their lives in the context of the environments where the problem exists. The second element is technology. Here we are interested in understanding certain trends that relate to technology. We are interested in understanding how things work and what other possible solutions exist in the market that can help our process. The third element of design thinking research has to do with business. Here we are interested to understand how the company plans its future, what parts of the market the company is interested in, and what data is available to help the solution team in their work. Another important part of the design thinking research process is benchmarking. Benchmarking can be done to any one of the previous elements on the technology side, on the business side, and on the user side. The reason we do benchmarking is to learn as much as possible from other companies' experiences so that we are actually producing better or improved solutions. The last element of the design thinking research process is to rewrite the problem definition. The reason this is important is because now all the data that came from the research is available to the solution team, and they're able to fine-tune the original problem description. The reframed problem definition is actually part of the design brief that needs to be produced. The next step after the design thinking research portion is done and design brief is written is for the solution team to produce ideas that relate to user needs, technology possibilities, and business requirements. The solution team may also produce criteria for selecting top ideas and at the same time produce a visual map showing possible directions for the future. Let me show you a couple of examples of how ideation and synthesis could work. In a more traditional sense, teams place post-it notes on a board randomly. No connection between the ideas and no organization. The next step here is to begin to group those ideas based on links between them. So the ideation team together can look at all of those ideas and begin to cluster them. They can give them a title, they can assign groups to them, and they can end up with several groups of ideas and several clusters of ideas within each one of those groups. Another way to conduct ideation and synthesis is to place ideas directly on a three-circle diagram. Here, ideas are placed on an area that represent either the user, technology, or business. Some ideas could fall on the overlap of two of those spheres of interest. Most promising ideas would be placed in the centers where they relate directly to all stakeholders. The next phase of the design thinking process is idea visualization and storytelling. The reason this is important is because it's easier to share ideas visually with others in the company for decision making. So here is where a creative person on the team would be very useful. That person would illustrate what they understand from the ideas that were previously written down on post-it notes. And again, you don't do that to all the ideas. It's a fairly lengthy process, could be expensive process. However, you could do that to some of the top ideas that were selected. And those would be illustrated in a storytelling fashion in a way that describe a scenario for a solution that the user may be using. And it may give the designers a better look at the vision behind a particular idea or ideas. Illustrations could be as simple or as elaborate as necessary, but the point is that they are illustrated and visual and make it easier for others to understand. This process needs to end with criteria for selecting top solutions, but it would also end with mapping of these top solutions in a way that benefits the company. This is also the beginning of the process in which concepts would be built and prototyped and tested. And those will be described in more details as we get to the course.